Good afternoon and welcome to the SFO Community Roundtable's Ground-Based Noise Subcommittee. It is 3:01 and we're calling to order. It is Tuesday, July 11th, and this meeting is from 3 to 4:30. We have with us, I don't have the script anymore, how much we count on the script. My name is Ann Schneider. I am the current mayor of the city of Millbrae and the current chair of the Ground-Based Noise Committee. We have with us Councilman Al Royce, former mayor of Hillsborough, and staff. We have Kathleen Wentworth of the County Roundtable, Angela Montez, and from the airport, we have Bert Ganon of the SFO Noise Office Manager, and really our go-to person for all things noise on there. Who do we have online or on Zoom?
On Zoom, we have Jean Rendell, technical consultant to the roundtable. And also with SFO, we have Mr. Christian Valdez.
Very good. And we have at least one public member. So thank you for attending. Moving down this meeting is both in person and hybrid and is taped and will be part of the archive of meetings for that. We have sort of one big mission today with many subparts on that. And we're going to jump right into that. I do want to thank Jean Rendell and Kathleen and Angela for the staff report. If you're watching this and you open up the agenda item, you can read the staff report, which is the process that we're going to go about to looking at where noise monitors should be. So with that, did you want to? Oh, I'm just working down the agenda. I'm blathering till I get there.
I'm not on the agenda.
Correct. Thank you. So we've had call to order, and now is the time for public comment for items not on the agenda. Sir, if you've got anything, if you're also be able to come back and comment on any of the agenda points on them.
Okay, yeah, I do have a comment. My name is Raymond.
Before you go, is he okay there, or does he need to be closer to a mic? He's okay.
He's fine.
Okay.
Just give me 1 second.
We want to make sure we get your name for the record.
And I will also like to know for the record that I'm sorry, Member Royce, I did not say you were present with us today for ground-based noise along with Chair Schneider. But I will share my timer. And I will also advise those members on Zoom that wish to comment, you may click *9 to indicate your desire to speak. And this is for comments not on the agenda.
Madam Chair, one quick question. Is there anybody on Zoom from the roundtable?
Not from the roundtable, not roundtable members.
Thank you.
So right now it's the two of us.
Yes, and I'll take your slips then.
Oh,
Madam Chair, can I make one more comment? There's been a request in the past that if they're members of the public, that they be on Zoom, that we identify them.
Sure,
So I'd ask that be done.
sure. So I can share, let me do So this is the list of those members that are from the public on our attendees. We do have from the county, Lisa Aldata, Michael Mashak, and Tom Shannon from the public. So I will now call on Remy Tan from the city of Pacifica. Mr. Tan, you will have 2 minutes.
Hello, my name is Raymond Tan. I'm a resident of Pacifica, the Banner Benchmar area, north of the town, and architect. And we're unfortunately under the flight path of 28, and we're getting a tremendous amount of jet noise at the in the all hours of the night. 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And sometimes they run maybe 5 minutes, as close to that. And I've been, on the stopjointjetnoise.net site and logging, so, and it's mostly the 777s flying over to Asia. And, we're wondering, if some of these jets can actually take off, 28 and then make a hard right over the industrial area, which is, not occupied during that hour of the night. And, take off over the bay and then make a left turn, over the gate to go out, or the right turn, go over Sao Paulo Bay to go over. I was on a flight recently to Europe and on the A330, a Condor flight, and took off and made a hard right and then over the bay. So that's a wide body plane, fully loaded. There's not one empty seat on that plane, so I wonder, why the other, most of the 777s, can't make the same, earn the Kathleen, former, wide body pilot, talk more about that, but that would, go a long way in us, Pacifica, Daly City, and South San Francisco, being able to sleep at night, because I'm woken up at night. And this is a fairly recent problem. When we moved in 27 years ago, the planes were actually a little bit to the north, over more of Daly City, with him having kind of a wider swath. Thank you.
Thank you. For items not on the agenda, we can't respond, but your questions, I'm sure if we could, we would be saying that's a perfect question for night hush. And that is something that typically comes up at every regular roundtable. And our next roundtable meeting is August
It is
2nd. Second, what is,
August 2nd, I
Yes,
believe.
is it August 2nd on that?
And it just through the chair, if I can, it's a little bit more nuanced than that, and night hush is not a solution for this problem
okay.
necessarily at all. But if you were going to stay till the end of the meeting, I'd be happy to have a conversation with you off.
The alternatives have curfew kind of problem.
Yeah, or else I'm happy to talk to you before the next roundtable meeting.
And I will tell you, we love that idea, curfew. We really do. We just can't, as we're not quite following, we can't talk about that item. But thank you for being here. Do we have any members from the public that have items not on today's agenda?
Thank you, Madam Chair. With that, we have no further comments.
Very good. And thank you, public. You can raise your hand later on. Moving on to, it says comment from subcommittee chairperson. I would only say congratulations to SFO Airport for the completion of runway 1 left, the redo on it. And now when I bring people down there to look at it, you can see this lovely swath of dark asphalt. But for about 6 weeks, we were incredibly quiet anecdotally, because just that much noise hits this neighborhood from one-way left departures on that. With that, I think we're going to dive straight into our agenda items. The main goal today, and where we left it from the last ground-based noise roundtable. Ground-based noise technically looks at a lot of the departure noise, but when it's really close to the ground. And San Francisco Airport is somewhat unique around the world in that most of the aircraft only take off in one direction. So the noise, our premise is a lot of the noise in back of the jets, in back of a departing plane, do not get picked up and are not included in part of the contours. And that's the discussion that we're having today. Is we did a modeling study, basically a virtual study, and we, based on the data that HMMH did, we believe that there is noise in Hillsborough, in Burlingame, in Millbrae, possibly into other neighborhoods in San Bruno that are not currently collected by the Federal Aviation Administration's current metrics on that. So we got to the point of, we did the study, then COVID hit, flight reductions. We've been, in a way, waiting for normal flight operations so that we can capture a more typical use pattern. And that's where we are today. With that, those are my comments. Al, as a member, did you have any comments for agenda item 1?
No, I think you laid it out. We're trying to ascertain, number one, what is the extent of the problem, and then from there we can determine a potential solution to it, which we're working on. So,
And really trying to, the spectral analysis, the modeling study was a model. Now we're trying to ground verify, if that's the right term. I'm trying to get the real data that can support some of the assumptions that we think might be happening. At the same time, our noise monitoring systems have gone from generally reporting out a particular C-weighted, get my C's and my A's. And we're trying to also incorporate the other weighted thing, which picks up more of the low frequency noise on there. And then on top of it, as our public member spoke, the FAA picks up on a noise incident as checkmark 1 and not, oh, this one lasted 30 seconds, this one lasted 5 minutes in terms of the total annoyance factor. So ultimately, Al is our vice chair of the roundtable, and we just submitted a letter today, which I haven't had a chance to read yet, but to look at other ways of measuring noise to give a better, Al, help me here, a real picture of what people, human beings, are truly experiencing.
You said it well. We're trying to get to a real life noise in a real life setting. So it's not just an average, it's time above your issue. How often does it exceed limits? When does it happen? What's the extent of it? I mean, so all those questions. So the letter that was referred to, and Kathleen is the primary author of it, so it's a great letter, but it deals with not just noise metrics, but also health consequences and nighttime noise, and in particular concern. I'd urge you to read it. I think it's a very thoughtful letter, and it probably addresses not the answers, but some of the solutions with recommendations.
So with that, we also have within the airport roundtable, we have it's still considered an ad hoc committee. We have an air monitoring device. So the airport, and Bert can go into more detail. We have a number of fixed monitors that are now collecting both kinds of data and are beginning to be turned out in a new report format using a NEAM. Maybe not.
You mentioned air monitoring device.
Oh, I'm sorry, because I had neighbors complaining to me about fuel spills. Sorry, noise monitoring.
Thank you.
A and C weighted noise monitoring, and a slightly different reporting that we're going to be diving into with the roundtable called the NEAM. And then we have the airport has some portable monitors. So today's discussion is really of the fixed monitors, noise monitors in the close-in communities, which are basically San Bruno, Millbrae, Burlingame, Hillsborough, but we're open to hearing other locations, and the portable monitors to try to get that. Another potential finding of the spectral analysis study is that low frequency noise takes longer to attenuate, which means to go away in simple terms, and it may actually concentrate as it moves up our hills, which is why neighborhoods in Hillsborough that are quite a bit farther from the runways can experience the same noise that those of us closer to the airport are experiencing. So again, the data is to try to see, is it real? Is it just what we think we're hearing, or is it actually real on that? So moving into agenda item number 2, and hopefully Jean Rendell and Kathleen will take the lead on this, and Bert. The first item, this is discussion of the use of portable monitors in ground-based noise data gathering, and agenda item number A, determine which fixed noise monitors for use for SFO to obtain the A and the C weighted noise from data from aircraft operations. So I'm not sure who's going to take it from here, if that's both Jean and Bert. What do you think? You guys are the pros.
Well, I had produced a map. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, and can we pull that map up?
I will see if I can share it.
It's this one.
Are you seeing it?
Yes. We're seeing.
Okay.
That's my computer,
Let's
my
try it.
PDF. We're still working on it, Jean.
Okay.
And Supervisor Klein's office has
Yeah.
just joined us. There we go. We can see it.
Okay. So we produced this map showing the areas behind the start of takeoff roll of the runways, one left and one right, the areas that is probably the maximum propagation of sound from the engines as they're departing, because they are off at about a 45-degree angle from start of takeoff roll. And so we came up with those shaded areas in green as to the areas in which portable noise monitoring may be beneficial. And then we also showed in there the permanent noise monitors and actually grayed out the green, if you will, in those areas because those monitors probably cover those areas. So we're looking at monitors 8, 9, 10, 11, possibly 13. I would say for sure 13 actually. So we have those monitors already there. And then the idea is where the chair of the ground-based noise committee and where you want or where the communities want to place the portable noise monitors, and then we will get both A and C weighting noise levels from aircraft for not only the permanent, but then the 4 portables that we're going to place out as well. So the purpose of this map is to help determine where to place those 4 portable noise monitors to begin the noise measurement process.
Madam Chair, Gene, your map, what are the geographical dimensions? I can't read it. The green is encompassed by what? I don't have it. I don't have my computer, so I can't see it. Oh, you have a copy? Okay. I just got a copy, so I'm gonna.
Well, while Al is looking at that, Jean, did you, or Bert, did you want to add anything to Jean's comments?
No, other than the basics for portable noise monitor, we're looking for a secure location. Preferably in somebody's yard or a city corporation yard, things like that. Or even a business that has a nice quiet area. You want to find a quiet area. You don't want to be near a roadway or a freeway. Because then it makes it difficult to pull the aircraft noise out of the roadways and railroads too.
We have a few of those.
Yes. And then looking for a nice 2-week period, 3 weeks maybe, to go ahead and do some monitoring, and we'll go ahead and report out.
Thank you. I had a dumb question when I first saw this map, which was really good and really helped when you try to explain to our public why someone living farther from the runway might be getting more noise than certain people living right at the end of runway 1 left or 1 right. It's been really hard to help them visualize it. And this 45-degree angle of noise moving from a jet engine as it's moving down the runway, it's 3-dimensional thinking and it's kind of tough. So I really appreciate this map. It helped. My dumb question when I looked at the 2 Millbrae ones, which I know Millbrae better than I know Burlingame, than I know Hillsborough. So forgive me for, and I'm hoping Al will help fill in the blanks. And I did include member Ricardo Ortiz from Burlingame, but he has a day job. So these meetings can be tough. I'm looking at noise monitor 9, which is right on the edge. And it's funny how quite often I think noise monitor 9, which is fairly close to where I live, doesn't pick up the same experiences. And this helped me say, oh, well, it's picking up just sort of the edge of this fan-shaped low-frequency noise model. So maybe monitor 9 for Millbrae is not in the right place. I know that's not one of our goals today, but when I looked at that, and the airport has come and asked Millbrae for the okay to move noise monitor 8, because frankly, it's in an area with multiple noise imports. And I get that. We were concerned to lose it because it's the source of historical data. And if we're trying to compare new to old on that, but you had mentioned moving monitor 8 over to the El Loft Hotel, which is within, right on the edge of the, what would we call that? The most easterly, southeasterly edge of that fan shape. I think that's something you have my okay for us to put that back in the future, because if these monitors are not collecting even the old fashioned data, then maybe that's part of the reason that we have problems with contours, because they're simply in the wrong place. They're in back and not in back of the fans. Bert, Al, I didn't know if that's how you felt about 13. 13 is kind of right in the middle. 11 is right in the middle, but 10 is just like our 9. Burlingame's noise monitor 10 could also be missing the experience. So that's just kind of my outside amateur observation.
I'm open as to where we put the one in Hillsborough. Right now it's up on Skyline. So I'm concerned a little bit about Bert said, are we picking up ambient noise or not on it? The request from the town has been to move it closer down into the town where we seem to get the most complaints about ground-based noise. But we haven't been able to find a location, just to be honest with you. So, I mean, that's our fault, not the airport's the roundtable, but we just haven't set up.
But maybe it's also if we collectively the council members of the cities get together and say, hey, we're trying to do a scientific study. It's only 3 weeks. You know, we can at least move the portables around to try to get that data. You know, I mentioned in an email to staff that I swim at prime time, which is on Rollins Road, and it's well within this triangle. So again, up until now, Burlingame hasn't had residents, but they are now adding a great number of residential units to Rollins Road. And that noise, I sit there when I'm swimming, especially if I'm kicking, and I try, is that runway 1 or is it 28? But it is incredibly, plus the way the building is shaped, the noise concentrates right in over the pool. So there's a little bit of that. Okay, on to this. I can't remember, Gene, if it was you, Gene, or if it was Bert. You came to Millbrae and it said, it looks like from Millbrae's perspective, the noise is going from our Bayside Manor neighborhood into our, what we call our Millbrae Manor neighborhood, into our Lower Highlands, and then towards Green Hills neighborhood, and then up to Helen Drive. And I think there had been a request to try to find a location in Green Hills, which there's nothing in Millbrae that's flat. Even our flat is not flat, but do you want it more in a valley or do you want it on the top? Because I will tell you, we have a council member who lives in Green Hills, right along that line, that we can ask that councilman. Now that is a town, it's kind of a town home, and they don't really have backyards per se on there. So, but it's not a gated community. We don't have any gated communities in Millbrae, but it's a little bit more protected if it wanted to go into a front yard. So that's a possibility. We also have just below Green Hills, we have a big swath of SFO Hetchy land with nothing on it. We don't have a trail running through it. It might be one of those protected areas. We might also, of course, you put a temporary fence up, you're almost asking kids or people to be curious on there. On that, one of the spectral analysis had a testing site at our Central Park up on the hill. And we could put it inside the gated community garden in there, which is code keyed to get in and out on that.
I'm sorry, what was the name of that?
It's Central Park. It's right up the hill from here and right at the top of the hill where we lost the trees that canceled our other ground-based noise meeting. Those big cypress trees fell down, but we have a locked community garden up on the top of the hill. And that might be a location right there, at least in the beginning on that. And that would at least kind of split the difference between. It's a little bit more on the southern side of the northern fan, but at least it would be a protected place for that. If it would get us started on there. Bert, do you think, I know we've got 3 weeks, we've got to share the portable monitors with other cities where they rotate around on an annual basis to record historical situations. If we did 3 weeks there and then we moved it somewhere else, the next time we had a 3-week window.
Well, we have 4 monitors that we're going to dedicate to this. So we can use 4 of them in different locations. So you can do it all concurrently and see what you get, compare apples to apples. If you get a period of measurement and move, you're gonna have apples and oranges now.
Okay.
Different time periods, different weather, different everything. Like this weekend, we have a heat wave coming.
It's going to be hell.
It'll be warm.
Especially if there's an inversion layer, which is what I think we had on June 29th and 30th. I didn't write to you. It was just like 3-4 hours of solid noise at my house.
The one in Burke, the one in Hillsborough, that's a fixed monitor, right?
All of those orange dots with a black dot in the middle are permanent sites.
Yeah. Yeah, so we did push for a noise monitor earlier, but would you remember, we couldn't get agreement to work. And so we've not pushed since, but it would be helpful to have it on a periodic basis, even if it's just for a 3-week cycle, to validate or disprove some of the concerns we do get on noise, the level of it. I'm particularly interested in validating the noise up the hill and what level it is at the top of the hill. as well.
But wouldn't it also help if you had the noise below the hill and up, and then we can measure attenuation?
Although hopefully we can pick the noise below by the Millbrae monitor, but maybe we wouldn't need that. I
Well,
don't know.
Looking at Burlingame's monitor 11, it seems to be in the right place. And for the public, that's located just off of Truesdale, right? In a schoolyard that has been adjusted slightly.
Lincoln School,
I'm sorry?
Lincoln Elementary.
Oh, at Lincoln, not at BIS.
Yeah.
Near Lincoln. So that might be Hillsborough's lower one, and then move the portable. Would it make sense, Bert and Jean, in the same line? Although we may not be capturing topography that's going this way.
So if we snap the line from the end of the runway through 11 and out, is that what you're asking?
Boy, if you did, then you've got 11 portable number 4
Because if you
and
notice,
13.
11 and 13 are in line.
They are in.
Snap the line from the end of the runway.
Would that be a place to start, Al?
Who's,
And it looks like it's right on the, one potential place is right on the Burlingame Hillsborough location.
13's in the low right-hand corner.
right. Oh, I see it. I'm sorry.
That's pretty good.
My insight's not what it used to be, not that it ever was any good. Yes, that is a direct line, and that would give us some dimensions.
So my goal today is hopefully to walk out of here with some
With 4 locations.
cross streets.
Ah.
That way I can say, okay, we need to be looking in this area. And ideally, if you have a name of a resident or somebody willing to host it in the general area, I mean, it doesn't have to be at that cross street, it can be a block over or something. Just give a holler and we'll see if we can make it work.
So for the public and Jean, I am pulling up a Google map right now and expanding it. I think if Jean and Bert told us these are the likely areas to give us the best information, I can send a letter from the mayor to these residents asking if they could participate. I could go knock on their doors too on that, because I think we're going to try to get this set up in August. We'll still be in peak travel time in August.
Okay.
So, I mean, August would be a good time to try to get the portable monitors. We could get approval at the roundtable on August 2nd.
I think it's within your authority.
It's within to do that. So again, I
Decided today, we could go.
Well, I would say let's just call them from north to south. Let's call Millbrae one, portable monitor 1. And if you and Jean really want one in Green Hills, let's choose Green Hills. And then if we wanted to verify the data for Highlands, Central Park Community Garden.
I just need to state that I don't have a preference on location. I provided these green shaded areas. You know the neighborhoods better. You kind of know where some of the problem spots may be. You know how it travels up the hill, and you know, again, just kind of disperse those 4 noise monitors in and amongst those green areas and try to avoid the areas that are already covered by the fixed monitors.
Can I tell you, when the airport first got its new monitoring devices, they, what did you do in my backyard? It was there for about 2-3 weeks, and you were trying to,
You just deploy it to get a noise level.
or was it, you were trying to calibrate them, I thought, at the time, because they were brand new?
They were working just fine. We just wanted to catch some noise for it.
Ah, okay, I thought it, but there was a public member who protested that a member of the roundtable had a monitor in their yard. I can tell you one advantage of having it in my yard is at night, like on June 30th, 29th and 30th. I was awake from 11 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and I could write down how long each thing lasted from a human experience versus the data on there. I live 5 houses, okay, probably 8 houses from the Central Park location. It could be similar. Could be, but also my backyard is an option. Our previous staffer wrote to me, it's like, Ann, you might be a target, and I was targeted for having it in my backyard, but really I thought it was because we were field testing the brand new monitor and getting it all kind of working. at that point, and it was never intended to be permanent. It was just
No.
a test
No.
on there. But if those are comfortable with you guys, that's another option. In my backyard, it is completely safe. It's no one, not even me, has been back there on that.
I have a question, right? This is covering, I guess, the runway one backlash left and right.
Mhm.
I'm just wondering if this agenda item are covering, monitor gaps, on the takeoff for the two.
Like on a
left
gap
and right.
departure,
Yeah,
not at this point. Right now, we're trying to prove or to get data that matches the spectral analysis. That said, before, golly, I've been on Airport Roundtable now. This is my 8th year. We spent a little bit more time looking at the monitors, and Pacifica, for example, has a quarterly. They're part of it. We haven't really seen those or talked about them much for years. Certain cities have standing air monitors, but going back and seeing if those monitors,
Noise.
golly, sorry,
I don't wanna make
Noise
that clear. We
monitors.
don't have air quality monitors.
noise monitors on that. And that would be a good subject to bring back to both the air monitor device, because again, next gen happened, but today you kind of said it sounds like the sound is fanning out, whereas the problem had been concentrating. So for the Pacificans and for your representative on the roundtable, they have asked, are the monitors in the right place?
well, I just actually looked at it, because one of the citizens, through our email group sent it, and I clicked on it, and the monitor is on Faster Road, which is kind of in the middle of the south part of Pacifica. So that's very far away from the, the impact of two-way left and right, especially the, late night departure. So I'm wondering, one, if that monitor is the right place. And
If I may.
two, I've looked on the website, there's supposed to be a monitor kind of near Highway 1 where it goes up and meets,
Site 19.
and that one, when I click on it often, it's not even functioning. So,
It's definitely functioning. We monitor that every day. You may not be able to see it on the screen at the moment, but as far as in our office, we have the data.
okay.
The nice thing about it is if something goes wrong, telecoms, whatever, the data will store on the device.
This is the one in North End of Pacifica, right?
19, yes.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the one at Vassler, that was recommended to us by your previous member, Mike O'Neill.
Right.
And it was based on the number of calls in that area. There were quite a few. So we asked where would be a good place where it was secure. They offered to pass the water tank.
Right, but I was trying to find the one for Site 19 and couldn't find it on the website, so I'm sure.
Happy to talk to you.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's an idea for the full roundtable, for the incoming, I don't know if we have an incoming chair to come back and look region-wide on the monitors for something bigger than ground-based noise, that one. Although you get the same experience, you get that deep rumble, which is what low-frequency sound can sound
We
like.
get both because you hear the throats, so we get the whine from the fan. And it's quite loud because the planes are close to the hill. And then as they pass us, we get the backlash from the large twin jets.
Bert, do we have any monitors up by College in San Mateo?
No, sir.
That if I was gonna ask for one, as a matter of interest, it would probably be there only because that's inside of these, our new housing projects. There'll be a lot of residents who do not live there now that would be living there.
Do you mean CSM or do you mean Skyline College?
CSM.
CSM.
We've got property there that's being listed for future development for the green numbers. And so-
Hillsborough does.
Hillsborough.
Okay.
So, I'm not sure I want to know the answer, frankly, but it'd be nice to know the answer. Is there gonna be a noise consequence that we ought to be aware of if we build a those units up there? But again, that's not, my problem is that if I look at where we only have 4 portable monitors. And I'm trying to struggle with whether or not Hillsborough has a higher priority for them than some of the other neighboring cities. I'm not sure we do, because we have the 1 and 11 and we have 13. The other ones are not ground-based noise, they're down by town hall, that's overflight noise. And so if we're focused on ground-based noise, I struggle to be honest in saying we need one, just to be blunt.
Appreciate it.
I think the priority may exist more in some of the other neighborhoods, just to be blunt.
Unless we're trying to be able to zero out the 280 impact. And I will tell you, when I led the Rotary's Mayor's Golf Tournament, and I was up at Crystal Springs, just how noisy it was. Hillsboro's right there, the golf course is right there, and 280, and it was 8:30 in the morning, so it was prime rush hour, and it was pretty noisy up there. So if your monitor is picking that up and getting it discounted, doing something somewhere else in Hillsborough might tell you, yeah, 13 might need to be
Well,
moved.
then if we were gonna move it, we either move 13, although it's been there a long time, so a lot of historical data there. Or we'd have a temporary monitor further off of 280 that would isolate the freeway noise. So we could do that.
Actually, 13 was closer in. It was at a private residence.
That's right.
And they, wanted the monthly rent, that we would pay to be quite high. Exorbitantly high, shall we say?
We get rent?
A little bit, yeah. It's an offset, basically. But anyway, they wanted a lot of money. And we said, we can't afford that. And so they told us to move it, take it away.
It's at a water tower yard, right?
It's at the water tanks.
What
street was it on?
Who owns those water tanks?
Found it.
So the county wanted?
It was closer in.
No, we did, the private residence. There was-
Okay.
It was closer in. I'd have to get that.
And given that we're trying to test out the findings of the spectral analysis, Jean, I appreciate Hillsborough on that. But if we need to put a temporary in there and use it to test, and maybe it finds out, wow, there it's not bad, but 600 feet in the other direction where there's a dip, it is bad. That's, to me, how can we find where our valleys or hillsides going up, are they concentrating on it?
We have a corporate yard that might be ideal because it's off Black Mountain Road. It's,
Okay.
it's going all the way north to south. It's in the western part of town, on the top of the hill, but it's further back. If it's further from 280, you probably isolate 280 noise there. That might be a better site, and that'd be easy too, because we're on the property there. So maybe we,
Do you know the cross street, Black Mountain Road, and
oh shoot.
we'll
Is
get
it off Black Mountain?
It's off
But Black Mountain is long.
Yeah, it's up near the western segment of it.
I'll get it from you later.
Okay.
So, I mean, if we're gonna have to pick 4 spots, and we may not pick them correctly.
Okay.
So if we're not being held to being perfect from the get-go, then let's just find those slots and we learn from them and we, collect the data. I think the difference for June 29th and 30th was a perfect way for me to explain to the public, because we were in that mini heat wave. There was an inversion layer, and there was a third thing going on, all 3 contributing to more noise. So even with windows closed on that, when we go back into the winter time, we hear the airplanes, but our windows are closed, it's foggier, it just doesn't feel as loud coming from the airplanes. They may be as loud, it's the same airplane, but the experience isn't the same. So we really do want to get this in August.
Weather does play very big.
Yeah, once you finally told me inversion layers, now when I'm listening, when I'm talking to people, I said, can you go see that brown haze out there? There you go. Because it does, it's going to bounce the sound back down on that, but it's having a visual that you can explain to people helps them. So that gives us sort of, Al, what do you think about Green Hills, 1 near Central Park? And then for Burlingame, I actually think of all of our monitors, Burlingame's 11 is probably in a perfect location. Is there something that we can do to?
One of the thoughts I had over there is inside of 11 towards the airport, because we know that 8 isn't in an ideal situation because it's not a direct, it's not the maximum sound propagation path that the noise takes. And so just having something, if you look on the map there along Rollins Road or something, I don't even know if there is anything in there.
If we're trying to do that straight line, Gene, And I'm looking at Rollins Road for anybody listening or watching in the Burlingame on a straight line. Using two different maps, so it's a little bit
Sure.
tough.
That's fine.
In from 11.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you draw a
In between
line,
11 and the contour there.
yeah, and there's a junction right there on Rollins Road. My guess is that's in Burlingame, and my guess is it's close to See's Candy.
Close to prime time.
I'm pulling it up now. And where, do we know the address of 11?
Just a moment.
I'm thinking it's near Mills Canyon Park.
Did it move off of the school grounds, Bert? Did I hear you correctly?
No, it's still on the school grounds, instead of in the side yard next to it,
Uh-huh.
it's actually around the corner by 20 feet.
And
Oh,
It's
okay.
on- it's on the-
what's
It's
the
been
address?
several years, but I was actually out there. Many years
The
ago, probably
problem,
15.
the big problem for Rollins Road right now, from the Millbury portion of Rollins Road to one building away on Burlingame side is a huge brand new project. They've already demolished everything. They're digging holes. The steel is going to start, or the concrete pours, I think, will be
Yeah.
starting soon. And then a little bit farther down, right across from Primetime, is another huge development right now, just dirt on there. So in terms of trying to catch 3 weeks of data without heavy construction going on, it could be tough because there's just that
Yeah,
active
well,
right now.
I thought that too, and that you may not be able to get low enough ambient noise to really get the measurement. It'd be good to get it if you could, but you may not be able to.
But if we have a number of businesses. It would be nice to do that straight line. If you could give us a straight line, we can always ask the Burlingame
And it
businesses.
doesn't need to be exactly that straight line. It's that order of magnitude, right? So anywhere, between 11 and the airport would work along that green area.
Mhm.
I mean, I understand a straight line would be easy to describe and understand, but I wouldn't paint yourself into that corner, right? I would allow
Okay.
you some flexibility in there, because
The
if there is
bigger
a quiet area, then go ahead and put it there.
The bigger problem, and this is going to sound funny, they're not my businesses, so I don't know them as well. I can tell you one of our glorious new businesses, Longfellows, they're just such great community partners that I could ask them, and I'm sure they would say, sure. But I don't know these entities, and I'm just a member of Primetime.
Well, there's Primetime, and there's Guitar Chocolate also, it's right there.
Wouldn't that be, oh darn, to put our monitor, couldn't we have an air monitor then?
Well, on that, I'm trying to think where the Peninsula Pet Center
And
is.
it's the SBPA is also there.
It's farther down.
Farther
Yeah, it's
south.
it's almost by Broadway.
Oh,
Yeah, it's much farther down there, but See's Candy, there's a game company there. I mean, if you guys tell us there, then let us do a little bit of see if being an elected official counts for anything. And that we're just gonna do it for 3 weeks just to try to test out some theory. The one thing with biotech is they're into experiments. Hopefully they would say, sure, I'll be a part of an experiment.
There's a bunch of things between. Well, kind of around Primetime.
Yeah, there's a bunch of little businesses. For all of us who join Primetime with Guitar Chocolate there, it's like counterintuitive for our exercise program, but it smells great. So
Well, maybe that's the thing, is just kind of block out an area and maybe somebody go visit the businesses and see if anybody would be interested.
Again, if Primetime wouldn't that be lovely? Because I can best testify how loud it is there. And then if it's in that same line to Burlingame 11 and Hillsborough 13, it gives us a picture.
looks like it might be. Why wouldn't Primetime be interested in doing that? I mean, they got that big parking lot next to it.
They do. They've got some big power lines there that occasionally make that zzz sound.
Yeah.
But nothing ventured, nothing gained. But I'm just a member, so it's not like I have any power there.
I'm a member too, but I only go about twice a year. so-
I'm bad too, but it's hot now and the pool is lovely, so. Okay, so do we have 4 tentative locations? We still might have to work on the addresses for, you may not get those specific addresses, but we,
Cross streets are a big help.
okay. So I'm gonna say up here it's Palm and Lansdale.
Is that the Green Hills one?
No, Green Hills would be, let me go look that up. It's gonna be something like Bluebell. Their naming system is different. But again, if Councilwoman Pappen is okay, I don't want it to look like it sounds self-serving. It's just easier to deal with us. Green Hills.
Yeah.
Oh, it could be Green Hills Drive and Laurel for intents and purposes. Let's Laurel, yeah, it's the
Okay.
2 big cross streets. And then off Green Hills are these little courts. And I might, here's the biggest problem with the worst sound being between midnight, or the most annoying sound between midnight and 3. I'm home by then. I'll have to get up. I'll be up tonight because we're gonna have that kind of council meeting. Maybe I'll go listen in tonight and drive around Millbrae at midnight and see what I hear. But really, the bad ones are at 212 to 240. I think those are the Amazon lights. There's one 212 almost constantly for that next half an hour.
Yeah, most of the China flights are done.
Yeah, the Eva and
Are they also in
They're
that?
done by 2.
Okay,
around 2, yeah.
I hope I'm not still up at 2 o'clock, but after contentious council meetings, I often am. So it's a good night for me to go test it out.
Madam Chair.
And Linda knows nothing about that.
Palm and.
Palm and Lansdale, LANS, Lansdale,
And
just right there.
you're getting those late night flights, are those actually coming off 2-8? Because that sounds like the same ones from here in Pacifica on the front end of 2-8.
There are also runway 1 departures that go off and then fly what's called a night departure and go up in the middle of the day, or they're going south. They'll turn right and go down the day.
So are they the smaller planes that do one or some of the big ones that do one?
Typically not the big ones unless the winds are just right. We've seen 747s take off on the ones going towards Oakland, but the winds have got to be right.
And the weight.
So just,
Typically, the big ones are on 2-8.
Right, yes.
and going out on a gap departure, which is Daly City, Pacifica and San Bruno.
So then you're hearing backlash from the after departures.
Well, again, my experience at prime time is I think I'm hearing departure noise from both sets of runways. But I have a theory that we still haven't tested out, that the new hotel that was built acts as an amphitheater. Because I didn't used to get noise coming from the north, but I can sit in my backyard and hear noise coming
I mean, the new
Right.
airport hotel.
Yes.
Curve.
with the curve. Is catching it, and it draws a straight line here past City Hall to my house going up that way, but it misses our monitor 9. So it kind of goes that way, and it's one of those, well, the building is built, but that lovely curve, and definitely I didn't hear that noise before. It's capturing 28 departure noise.
So is there a residential on Rollins Road that's supposed
There isn't at present, but there will be a lot. Burlingame is putting quite a few apartment buildings, maybe condo on Rollins Road.
Well, you should check with all of those developers, because they're near enough to freeway and the airport that their acoustical consultant should be doing studies to deal with airport, Caltrain, and BART, and the freeway line. It's all part of
I
that.
would only say the pressure on local governments to build housing is so great that I get it from my residents all the time. You got to put housing where you've got the land for it.
Yeah, well,
There's no choice.
Your issue, but if you do choose to build it, for all the CEQA stuff you have to do for the housing, you have to hire an acoustical consultant to do that. So I'm saying there's data out there, probably in all those new big buildings.
Bert, would it give us additional, Gene, would it give us additional data points going back and looking at theirs? It's something to consider in the future.
I mean, it's already paid for because the developer would have to pay for it. Pass the CEQA.
It's data.
Yeah, it's just then coming up with the money to do the analysis, right? We would have to look at that as a budget item for the future on that. Something to tickle. Okay, back to the agenda. So we found 4 locations.
Can I recap?
Please.
So we have one in the vicinity of Black Mountain Road up towards 280. Al will give us a more specific address at some point. We have one in Hillsborough, in Millbrae, in the Green Hills at Green Hills and Laurel and was it cross street there?
Mhm.
Laurel and Green Hills, is Green Hills the street?
Mhm.
I'm sorry. Okay, great.
Green Hills Road.
Green Hills Road. And we have one in Millbrae at Home and Lansdale.
Mhm.
And we have one in the vicinity to be determined of in Burlingame that would be inside of
It's
number
Rollins Road and Ings.
Rollins, inside of number. was it
Yeah, they
eight?
don't have a lot of cross streets to compare.
Kathleen, there's a cross street, Ingle, INGO.
Oh, okay. Ingalls.
Is that is that a
Cross
business?
street,
Oh, Ingles. Okay, great.
Rollins and Ingle, and that's,
It goes toward, Ingalls goes towards the railroad tracks.
it goes. Yeah.
Because once you get onto Adrian, you don't get to get back to Rollins Road till you're
No,
all
it's
the way
just
down.
for you to find it on a map, but.
Oh, no, no,
basically
I know where it is on the map.
2 blocks either way.
Okay,
No, it's quite clear where
There's,
Rollins is.
but it's farther down from Adrian. So not Adrian, which is the Millbrae Burlingame
Right.
almost border. It's the next intersection. They just don't have a lot of intersections on Rollins Road.
There's
I
a
know.
couple.
But it's quite clear on Jean's map where we're going to go inside of noise monitor number 11, between 11 and the airport in the vicinity of Rollins, in the northern part of Rollins Road. Yeah.
Great, I'm happy we could go
That's
home
gonna
now,
be
right?
hard to place monitor though. It's a lot of asphalt and buildings.
What about rooftops?
Depending on how you get to the roof, you can do it. If it's through
Might
a
be harder,
ladder,
so.
I have an idea I'll discuss with George.
That would be lovely. I just, because we don't have Ricardo here, I want to make sure we're covering Burlingame on that and then we'll test it out on that. Millbrae will be, if the housing people will leave us alone, we are hosting our own meeting to try to help our public understand what they're hearing so they can help us identify which neighborhoods might be noisier than others and just kind of bring them in line. There just hasn't been time. And that time is going too fast. All right, so we've got 1A or 2A, 2B, the dates. I guess we really can't confirm the dates until do we want to say August 2nd? Could we do the following Monday? If we approve the locations at do we have the power? Do Al and I have the power or does it need to go with the greater body?
I don't see any reason that it would go with the roundtable as a whole. I think
Okay.
we
Do
could
we have to coordinate with
make those
the,
decisions today.
do we have to coordinate with that? We had a noise monitoring task force. And portable monitor. Do we need? to
That's
get-
Terry
Yeah,
O'Connell.
Terry.
No, actually, it was Sarah O'Connell. She's a member, but it's now Cecilia Taylor is the chair.
Cecilia?
And I've had some conversations with them, but in fact, we're not really moving any of these portables that have a semi-permanent home, if you will. We're just borrowing them for a few weeks.
this is in addition to.
Yeah, yeah, this is just,
Okay.
if anything, we're borrowing them. And besides, there's 4 other noise monitors that I don't know which ones you're using.
There's 8 total.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Kathleen, if
only
you
4
could
being
reach out to Cecilia, just let her know what we're doing and why in a short duration. So
Yeah.
she doesn't get.
I have mentioned
Have you?
it. I mentioned it at the time of the last meeting, so I gave her quite a bit.
Okay.
I didn't put a tickle out to remind her. Is she mayor this year or was that last year?
She's vice mayor this year.
She's vice mayor? Okay, just so I use the
I
right.
believe.
I think just for the record, that 4 of the portables were kind of controlled by that subcommittee and the other 4 were discretionary.
Right.
there.
Oh,
So I
okay.
don't even think-
And
So these are the 4, but to let them know.
No,
for
sure,
respect.
but it's not like
Okay. So we could play with these for a little while. It's very stoic.
Depending on what we mean.
He's afraid of me, I know.
it's like word play.
We have some flexibility on placement. Let's say we put one in Green Hills Road and Laurel, but it's not picking up anything for whatever
That I'm
reason.
all for,
That we might
yes.
want to move it to a
Sometimes
place.
Gene will tell you that portable noise monitoring can be a real experiment. So oftentimes, if you're on the edge of certainty when you place it, you'll sit with it for a while. See how it's going, or you put it up 24 hours and check your data. And then come back. You may find that the first day was just lousy, the next day is great. But sometimes it's like fishing.
Mhm. No, I can well imagine it is. There's just, noise has so many variables. It's hard to create a good experiment with that many variables.
Might be a good idea to have some backup locations and, or an idea of where to.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm wanting to walk out of here with more than 4.
Yeah,
I did have some residents of Millbrae who offered their spaces. I need to go back and find those emails and I'll do a push out again on them.
and then save the ones we don't use just in case.
Yeah, will, and then anything that might be city property. I don't know if our good friends at Green Hills Country Club, it gets, to me, I've been up there a lot because we've had golf tournaments, fundraisers, and it's not as loud. Noisier up in your neck of the woods than it was there.
Yeah.
But again, wind conditions and heat conditions also
Well,
play a
I
part.
will say that my first year in this job at San Francisco Airport 25 years ago, we did some monitoring up in the hill. Some of the old 727s were operating in the morning. And we monitored, I guess, from 6:30 or so in the morning until 10 a.m. And it was interesting, 2 monitors, same time, block away. They were very different readings.
Were they really? On the hillside,
Yeah, the hill.
yeah, and that was different than what you're seeing on the level. Right,
Oh, well, they're far enough away down here that
Okay,
it's
so-
different. We know it, but we figured just up the hill here, we would have seen pretty close, but it was very different.
I do vaguely think our Meadows neighborhood, which is right up by, well, part by 280, but part in this bowl carved out to create the airport. They get periodic noise, pretty loud noise, but it could be 1 block away in Meadows, nothing, 1 block there, something, and it really would be cool to have a perfect map. I don't know if you could ever have a perfect map, but wouldn't it be cool? Because you can then explain to the public why this, and it's gonna get better because the inversion layer is gonna go away, or whatever it is. Okay, so we've got 2A, 2B, 2C, the dates. Do we want to shoot for
it's ninth.
August.
Today's the 11th, so it's a month from that.
just FYI, August 7th through the 9th as my only vacation this year? I'm in Yosemite and there's no Wi-Fi. So I'll be at O'Shaughnessy Dam in one of those cabins and I'm going to be offline. So if you need me, I'm not around. But I don't think you'd need me, would you?
No,
I would defer to the airport. What do you think are the best dates?
Realistically,
When you get the best, you think would be the most?
well, I'm also trying to get staff vacations. too.
Yeah, no, I mean, being practical.
do we want to say something like August 15th to September 15th?
Ooh, that gets us over Labor Day weekend. Is that a huge flying weekend, Labor Day?
It is very
It'd be
good.
nice to get a huge weekend.
And that gives you some after chair's vacation and you can do your, it's enough time maybe to find 3 weeks there, or is 3 weeks in with a 4 weeks period too tight?
We could do 3 weeks, yeah.
Oh, 2 weeks,
3.
3, we did 3 and then 4 weeks.
Maybe do it over Labor Day. I like that.
I like the idea of over Labor Day.
Okay.
And it also gives me a little bit more time to talk to my residents, you to talk to yours. And see if we can come up with some alternate locations. So I've got that
August
flexibility.
15th, September 15th, give or take.
Okay,
What dates are you looking at?
August 15th to September 15th, just
15th to 9th.
Yeah.
Okay. Somewhere in that time part.
Yeah.
Straddling Labor Day. Okay.
okay, data to be collected. So we're collecting A weighted, C weighted. I'm trying to think if Dorleen Yapley is on a business trip right now, but can we get N above?
Well, all those things are processed.
Okay,
What we're collecting is 1 second noise.
and what does that mean?
So the monitor takes a measurement every second.
Oh.
And what you do with it is you will then process it. So you have a string of noise events and you watch for a spike and you see how long that spike runs for. You then will get an SEL. And you can process CNEL, you can process anything. You can actually get your A weighted and C weighted out of it too.
so basically all of the data is just all crammed into those fancy machines and then you take it out with software and the software process it. to give you what you're choosing to have, something like that.
Non-software or your formula spreadsheets, yes. I
So-
believe you guys run spreadsheets still, Gene?
You're asking the wrong person.
All right.
I doubt it's in a spreadsheet anymore, but it's probably using Python scripts and stuff.
Okay.
But so we're gonna measure ANC, or we're just measuring no weighting and we weight them after.
I would say wait after,
So it'd be unweighted.
yeah.
So that means raw data, it simply is that level of noise, and then you analyze it. Okay.
Let me make sure we can easily extract unweighted data from it or set it up for it.
Now, in the case of the Burlingame portables and existings in Hillsborough, we can look for attenuation over space, but the Millbrae ones, well, Central Park is, it's just 8 seems to be entirely in the wrong place.
Can you get ANC from your existing monitors?
I'm
Yes.
sorry, Gene, I couldn't hear that.
We can get ANC weighted from our existing monitors.
Because what we want to do is kind of get the same data out of both, right? So we don't want to do, we can do more with the portables, but we at least want to do what the fixed sites are getting. And so what we
Right.
ultimately want to do is get SELs, A weighted and C weighted for, and correlated with aircraft operations off of the ones or 2/8.
So we'll just pull ANC weighted rather than unweighted.
Okay. And you can do that with portables as well, A and C.
Yeah, same monitor in each.
Yeah, then there's less processing if you at least have that. So you have 1
Okay.
second data in A and C, and then you can develop SCLs, get events and correlate those to departure times off to the 1s and 2/8 as to which most likely correlated to each of the noise events.
Would we also want to have humidity and or if there's an inversion layer? I know it's more complicated modeling, but it could explain why the
So
same.
you could do that separately. What you could do is go get the National
Get
Oceanic
the NOAA data.
NOAA data,
Yeah.
and it has in it whether there was a temperature inversion at the airport.
Again, sometimes you can deal with more noise if you understand the reason why it's going to be for a short period of time, like an inversion layer or a heat wave.
Mhm.
You know that there's going to be
Is it typical for inversion layers this time of year?
Yes, very thick, very heavy, and they tend to be resident over there. I don't know if you've talked with Vince Mestry. He did quite a bit of study on that for Oakland years ago, and he wrote some papers on it.
Yeah, we did one in LA as well. I just wanted to know if it was going to be possible that you have inversion layers. So
Oh, usually are, yes. And 2 indicators are, if you look across the bay and you see that nice mud layer out there in the sky, it's an indicator that there is an inversion layer. And then 2, the heat waves, if you don't see the clouds creeping over the hills, it's going to be a hot day tomorrow.
right.
It's weird actually about that inversion layer 2 weeks ago. It was in 3 layers. I don't know if you looked at that. I kept looking out over the bay going, there was a lighter one and then a darker one and then a lighter one on top. I haven't seen triple inversion layers before. So it was, it was really weird. And it made me wonder what else might be going on. And that, at any rate, that period, it seemed to reflect the same time as that pretty noisy experience on that. Again, Labor Day weekend, historically a hot weekend, so that'll be a good one. We'll capture that data. So we've got basic noise data, we've got atmospheric data. Wind, do we need wind in there too?
Our permanent sites all have anemometers on them.
Okay,
we
so we'll
get
have
wind
wind.
speed and direction.
What about the portables? So how do we, so can we
Well,
interpret?
you're gonna know, I mean, wind's not gonna change that much in that area. So if you have wind at all the fixed, you kind of know what the wind is at the portables.
And if not, there's also some fantastic wind sites where you can see the wind patterns.
So the report that comes out of this will look like what? What's the deliverable at the end? It'll have each monitor will have a separate report. And it'll list it by day, and then the day will have the average, it'll have the and above, it'll have the duration, it'll have all of that. I'm trying to figure out which reports, what the deliverable looks like when we're done.
What is your plan for the report, Gene?
Well, I was wondering what your plan was to, what you typically do for a report, because I don't want it to be all that much different than your typical reports. But what I want it to be different is that it's going to look at A and C weighting. So,
Well, if you look at our portable noise monitoring reports on the website, you'll see that we do offer all of that already.
right. Okay. So it'll be,
Go ahead, Jean, sorry.
it's going to be similar to what is already being produced by San Francisco Noise Office for their portable noise reports. What it will
Right.
then also have is kind of a summary of what was learned from the study. Is there more low frequency noise behind start of takeoff roll? Is there, does low frequency change as compared to what the model says? Does the overall A-weighted level change as it goes up the hill as the model expects? Those sorts of things.
And
But that'll be a qualitative more than a quantitative.
Jean, the noise monitor will be reporting a discrete aircraft for each of the events, right?
Well, somehow we're going to have to correlate each event to an aircraft operating.
Systems correlate.
But it will be part of the data that's available.
Yeah.
Okay, and is that going to also provide the left, one right assignment?
Generally speaking, we're pretty accurate on that.
Okay, so we'll be able to see which runways they're taking off on, correlate that with the given event.
As accurate as their monitoring system data is, yes.
Yeah.
So Bert, are you able to produce your standard report from these portable monitors then?
Portable reports, yeah, we have a template for that. We can run those on the portables. I was just thinking how much fun it might be to try to do that on permanent. We haven't tried to go back the other way, but we might be able to do.
Dumb question. So just to finish up on 2D, data collected, we're pretty set, right? Reporting, Jean, you're saying both qualitative and quantitative data, and maybe it's time to go back
So
to
I
the
think
21
Bert's
study.
right. I think the noise office general portable noise monitoring report is your quantitative part of it. And then we will qualitatively do more from it at that point.
Okay. Do you think, so we meet again in October or November? November. Would that be enough time to be able to do analysis of this?
Yeah,
And is
well,
there budget
I
for it?
speak from SFO standpoint. We'll turn the data over to HMMH once we're through.
Okay,
We will then start making the portable reports.
okay. And do we have enough money in your contract, Jean, or do we need to ask the roundtable for money?
I think,
We're okay?
let me talk to Jean about it.
Okay, all right. And then my question was, let's say that in the nighttime frame, between midnight and 3 o'clock, there are certain airplanes that are the biggest problems. Will this data identify those? And that maybe the solution is to have them, instead of a 1 departure, a 28 departure with a sharp right turn to avoid the gap departure, and then to go up night hush.
I think there's a lot more to it than.
Oh, yeah, so we're not there yet.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
No.
Someday I would like to get there if there were just 1 or 2 flights that maybe by shifting it and not moving noise over a different neighborhood, we might, okay.
Yeah, we need to look at the
Oh, well.
data before we get
Oh.
into something.
Yeah, the intention of this is to better define the problem. And
Okay.
you always defined it as based on your experience And now we want to have data to better define that problem.
But then, okay, so if we can't do it at the single airplane level, and we also know that FAA currently doesn't use the metrics that identify our type of situation, but if our data helps show the FAA that actually there is significant noise that might change the contours, it won't help people enjoy their outside of their house, but would it open up homes to the insulation program?
No. The noise contours are generated using AEDT. And that is a federally mandated tool to use for the noise contours. We formerly used INM, Integrated Noise Model. Now we're using AEDT. It's the Airport Environmental Design Tool. And it, for lack of a better word, you put all your data into it, run it, look at the output, see your noise contour, and then you take your permanent sites and or portables and compare them to the contour and see where it lies. It should validate based on what you measure.
And I can say that if it doesn't, I think that's where you're headed, Dan, is that if it doesn't, and we have seen that in a few places, like I mentioned San Diego before, we do provide the results to the FAA, and I understand the FAA is actually trying to incorporate into the next major release of AEDT, which would be AEDT 4 something, that would be more of a not only terrain, but include buildings and include, things that off the ground propagation rather than along the ground propagation, those sorts of things. So that all that data does get reviewed and understood by FAA, but Bert's right. Until they incorporate it into AEDT, the contours will not change.
Okay, I'll bring that back on another agenda item. I still think that's not getting any of our people, especially the Burlingamers who, went to, I know we're heading into time. All right, but at least we'll have more data to tell us if what we're experiencing is provable on that. All right, moving on to agenda item 3A.
Madam Chair, we do need to open public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, open for public comment
On this item.
on agenda item 2, A, B, C, and D. Thank you.
So I do not see any virtual hands raised on Zoom, but Mr. Rami Tan does want to speak. On
And
item,
are we capturing his voice on this recorder? Okay.
Okay, I think I spoke a little bit earlier on the questions regarding the new housing. And, hopefully we can, pick up some data from the developers of that new housing. But I did, just listening, just wondering if, this will lead to maybe building a higher sound wall along the freeway between the airport runways, one left and right, and freeway, to deflect the sound away from all these houses, and business on the hill. So just wondering if that's gonna happen. And
Well, one would wish that sound walls would do such a thing.
No, is the short answer. It's too close to the protected airspace. You're gonna have a gap in that sound wall off each runway, definitely, and also you can't go too high. The
for the landing and the landing.
departing and arriving, yes,
Most of the landings are 280 coming in over the bay.
but you always have to plan for the worst case scenario, which is landings on that runway.
So you can't get it high enough.
There is, like I said, a protected zone, protected airspace is what it's called, Part 77. Under the federal aviation regulations, you can look at it. It's complex. Wedding cake scenario as it goes out. But no, it's really, really limited. And also too, Caltrans has issues with it too, as far as being too close to the freeway, things like that. We have found, looking at some of the reports from Caltrans with the sound walls there, it'll actually make noise hop, go outside to another neighborhood.
Not so simple.
Yeah, not so
Unfortunately, no.
simple. One would wish on that, but thank you for the thought.
Yes.
Any other public comments?
We have no further hands.
Okay, closing public comments for agenda item 2, A, B, C, D, moving on to 3A, and we can go through these quickly. To me, we did the biggest bulk. We've accomplished the mission today. So thank you for the other items here. Number one, Bert, this is, will we get a report on what happened with the noise reports with one runway, one left closed for that time period? I will tell you it was heaven.
Just a summary report.
Yeah, just, where did all the other planes get shifted to? Did they all come off runway one right? I actually flew
No,
3 times, or were there just fewer flights?
both runways were actually closed, one left and one right.
So everything's 28.
One right was being used as a taxiway. The only time they did have an issue with it was the day after they closed it, I think it was March 28th. So they had to reopen immediately, one right due to winds.
Hmm.
And then it closed back down immediately.
I missed that experience. I was in DC on the 28th, but that would explain why, because I kept, to be honest, I'm sitting there going, okay, is runway one left, the one that really hits this part of Millbrae versus one right, the one which is what the map would show, mainly into Burlingame, and how lovely it was for us. Let's move everything to one right, but it sounds like they were all 28s.
Correct.
Okay, all right. It'll be interesting just to kind of dive into it. Moving on to
I'm
B.
sorry, did you want more information than what he just provided you?
I didn't know both runways were closed, so that's good to know.
So-
It might be good to report out at the full roundtable, just for the record. That both runways were closed for 6
why?
weeks.
Almost
months.
8.
Was it almost 8?
I think it was pretty made abundantly clear that they were both going to be closed.
Yes,
I just always thought it was one left.
well, the announcement was construction on one left.
Mm,
During the construction, one right will be used as a taxiway.
Okay,
So it was kind of an afterthought, almost.
so that makes me wonder if the monitors that pick up more of 28 activity did.
Oh,
Did other areas
we
get
can
the-
do some comparative looking.
Maybe it's more that, hey, Pacifica or San Bruno or Daly City, were there more gap departures during that time? They were. So that's why I started getting comments from Pacifica and Daly Cityans reaching out to me saying, it's getting louder, but it was because of construction.
Right,
Okay, so at least we have an answer to that change.
all right.
Okay, on B, conditions. Again, it took me many years on Roundtable to hear that inversion layers have an impact, some of these other things. If we move into the summer months and we've got an inversion layer that is really deflecting more noise back into the close-in communities, is there any resolution to those communities? Can these flights be asked to fly before 10 p.m., except they're set up internationally?
Yeah, and most of the transoceanic flights, they have what they call track times, where they have to be on their assigned departure. You miss it, you then will go to the back of the line often unless they have a gap, and the FAA will drop you into that gap. Otherwise, you go to the next open slot.
That's so they can fit into the airports they're heading to?
Well, fit into the transoceanic routes. Because there are parts of, and I believe we learned this with Malaysia, that parts of the ocean when the flight's not in communication direct.
Certainly no auto, so
They're not-
certainly no
Seen the satellites
radar
aren't
or
there?
satellites or
Okay.
something, yeah.
Really?
It just seems like there's no way to get any kind of tiny little, other than, let's have runway one left and right go under construction every year.
In general, in 3B, we can report out on what types of conditions do what.
Okay,
Cold does this, heat does that, wind does this, inversion does that.
I mean, to be honest, this has been a good year for less noise because we've had so many cold. This is my amateur. It's been so cold and so overcast, it's been less noisy. So I have been liking this season. It's been much, much better.
So for clarification, if I may, so 3B would be something that you would report at the next.
Yeah, and I
GBN
think
meeting.
maybe our website could include public, this is what you're experiencing and why, and maybe it makes it more understandable. Am I the only one?
We
How do
attempted-
your people
we
feel?
attempted
They
to do
understand
that
why?
with our website and the insightful pages where people could go mine in and see what they're getting. The hard part of it is it's not a one size fits all that you can just say, oh, you live here, you get this. We would have to say, you may experience from this to that.
You know, I like having it, not, the residents aren't gonna go look it up, but it's good for the representatives to be able to explain it. You know, better than just weather. And it maybe should be part of our noise 101. It's
Noise
basic,
201.
Mhm.
or 201, yeah. You know, what is weather, how does weather conditions affect the noise?
That's
Just
a good idea.
3-minute.
Noise 201.
No.
Okay, cool. Moving on to 3C. So I don't know when, I have to go back and look at previous ones, but I was looking at the most recent contour and it now includes more of Nandina. Before it only took 3 houses on the corner of Nandina and Florida. Now it includes about 4 more houses on Nandina. So the contour lines have changed. Why?
Let's do 2 things. First of all, let's address the question. We're talking about 2022 FAA noise contour changes. They're not. The last FAA noise exposure map that we created was for 2019.
Okay, pre-COVID.
What we're looking at on a quarterly basis is a state Title 21 noise map. They're also dynamic. So whereas a federal contour is static, it stays with the last one done. And to a point, the state one does too, but we do it quarterly, so it's more dynamic. You'll see changes.
So if these now 4 houses are now within the contour and never did their first chance, would they be available for the second chance program or for the repair of,
Federal.
Oh.
If they're in the federal.
if they're in the federal, but not in the one that we're showing in our noise report?
Correct. Now, one thing you want to do is look at that 2019. It's typically a little larger than what we're doing right now.
Okay, I have to go back and look. I actually keep them all in a binder, but I just am filing things around like now and I was
Well, we
looking
can
at
look
something
that
saying
for
it's
you if you'd
different.
like.
So you're saying the contours have shrunk since 2019.
Oh, yes, immensely.
And when's the next one due?
We're starting it right now.
So it'll be 2023 or,
We've done 2023 quarter 1. which we
oh,
are-
not the state one, but the federal one.
Federal, you want to wait a little longer.
Wait till the numbers get up to
Get it now?
100%. Yeah,
It might be smaller than it was and less people get it.
yeah, exactly.
So we're waiting.
Does that make sense, Ann?
I do. To me, it only makes sense if we have the Burlingamers who used to be much more present in our places, they want a contour that covers their experience. And it doesn't. And me, I just thought, wow, this one shows more houses in Millbrae, because I always quote 3 houses in Millbrae, and then the map didn't match what I've been quoting. So this is just another one of those tiny tweaks that's gonna happen seasonally then.
HMMH had a beautiful tool. I can't remember the name of it. Jane, can you help me out with that one with contours? Real contours.
Real contours, yep.
Yeah, it was beautiful. You can do
Called
a
real
contour.
contours?
Real contours. You could do a contour every day. And when you ran it, you watch these things just in,
Change
out,
it.
ebb, flow.
Because contours.
Because
are
I'm not doing it
averages.
24, 365 hours.
Exactly.
You
Okay,
can do dailies, you can do weeklies, you can do monthlies, whatever. I'm doing a big plug.
which
for
helps
your
our
site.
argument for the FAA metrics need to be,
Yeah, I
More
don't
realistic.
understand these contours. I always thought they were locked in, they were static.
We have 2. We have the federal.
Yeah, is that locked
And
in?
that's locked in.
So how's
It's
it
what
getting
everything
smaller?
insulation is based on.
How's it getting smaller? Didn't you just say the federal one is getting
No,
smaller?
No, if we reran it now.
Oh, if you did it now, it'd be smaller, but
Yes,
it's locked in at the original.
yeah.
Okay,
You want
okay.
to hold tight on that
Are
one
you
for a little
recording?
longer.
And what-
Required every 5 years or
You're
every 7?
supposed to every 5 years, and I'm talking with the FAA. They're not asking for it right now.
So we're waiting until the numbers get to be more normal, typical, post-COVID, pre-COVID
I think
numbers.
everyone other than the FAA would like to see that, yes.
Yes, of course.
And then what good does the state map do? What good does the state contour
The
do?
state forces you to look at it quarterly, to see how you're doing. And hey, I'm seeing the change. Did I get 1.5 dB in change? Do I need to actually redo a federal contour or something. It just makes you more observant of what's going on.
It's just information, but it doesn't, there's no action, no increased
Exactly.
installation programs or anything.
That's because there's no funding behind it.
No funding for it.
No funding at the state level,
Correct.
Jean?
Right, right.
So this is something we need Senator Becker and Assemblywoman Pappen to be keeping an eye on for us.
Really change.
Well, it would then put the state and the federal in competition, and the federal will always win. See, the federal has very specific guidelines on what can be done for noise insulation. And also guide, program guidance language has been rewritten over the years to,
I hear you and I understand, but our spectral analysis showed that up the hill, right up here, there's a pretty constant 76 decibel. And we're nowhere near the, and the contour ends basically because they don't measure the noise in back. So I hear what you're saying, and I'm trying to find some relief, and no matter what we do, there's never any relief on that. We're running out of time, so
Can I
let's just,
clarify that last phase?
Yeah.
For sure, because I think we all lose sight of the fact that what we read from a noise monitor that says 76 decibels, and what we see in a noise contour, which is an average,
yes,
are not
yeah,
the same. So, and we hear this from our residents that come all the time and talk to us. Well, I'm not in a 65, but the airplane overhead was at 65 decibels. And it's
Right.
like, but that's not your average 24/7, over 24 hours of the day. You had 12 hours with zero, let's say. And then, so you know how the average dilutes things.
which is the problem.
and also,
And that's the federal law.
yeah,
We're stuck with it at the moment.
At the moment. So
And
we
I'll-
need to collect the data to show why that federal law is inaccurate, because if you're in any of our close-in communities or gap departure, and you've got constant planes taking off for whatever bad weather is around the world, constant from midnight to 3 a.m., you're not sleeping. And your children will not do well in school, and your health impacts are going to accumulate on that. So we have to get to that point where we stop averaging out the real, okay, I can deal with the noise during the day, even if we're having a picnic in the backyard and we have to stop talking. It's that midnight to 3 a.m., midnight to 4 a.m., which is why we're trying to get the night curfew, which would help all of us. But so if the data we're collecting can help us get there, and
well,
golly, 8 years and I still can't articulate it. That's my bad. I should be able to better articulate what we need to do.
I think
Change the law.
too, we need to address
That's what you
the
need to
noise
do.
report.
We definitely need to know that our Congressman Mullen needs to step in where Jackie was, and keep pushing that forward.
I believe he's,
I'd
would
go
be
one
a
step
good
back.
representative.
I think we need to build awareness, knowledge among the roundtable members.
Yeah,
Noise 101 is a great first start on that, because I learn something every day. Like, I did not know you had federal and state contours for the day.
That's brand new to me too.
This stuff, every time I come to a meeting, I walk away saying, how come I didn't know that?
And the other thing to remember is that both of those regulations, state and federal, are dealing with land use compatibility. Not necessarily annoyance, not necessarily health effects. In fact, I know it's not health effects. It's not a
no,
typical annoyance. It's land use compatibility. What the FAA has determined is that land uses are compatible with noise exposure less than 65 dNO. Okay, that's in the FAA regulations. It's also in Title 21 state regulations that land uses are compatible with noise exposure from aircraft less than 65 CNEO. That's all that's saying. And so when you have incompatible land uses, because of Title 21 specifically, the airport has to show that they're mitigating those homes and trying to come to where you have no incompatible land uses in. And so that's the purpose of the sound installation, is to get you to have no incompatible land uses. That's it. It's not saying that all the annoyance goes away. It's not saying that all the health effects go away. All it's saying is it's meeting the state and federal requirements for land use compatibility.
Al, I think the solution for our community is when all aircraft are VTOLs. And if they're electric and they can actually raise an Amazon flight full of cargo up, I can't imagine them using that on an electric engine, but if they could, we'll have it. But by then, you know, they're just announcing the new flying car, which I think is built in our area. We're never gonna win. It's never gonna happen. Okay,
I think too, we need to address one other item. Gene, in the original study, the 76 dB up on the hillside, that was for a single event, correct?
Right. Yes.
So we're not talking an average. It was just one event. So kind of apples and oranges again in their comparisons here.
and I understand that, but given that I live right there where that happens, and I will tell you between midnight and 3, sometimes 3:30, 4, it is a constant wall of noise. And to have it get averaged out just makes you angry, which makes it harder to get to sleep. It's like you are not experiencing what you are experiencing, but obviously you are. And I'm not saying the airport is doing that. It's just this averaging out of data is not real. It's not what we experience. And then you throw into the fact that certain communities are more disadvantaged by that, but the region benefits. So we have what Sam said, well, Millbrae, only you should be writing the comments on the EIR from the airport, not the region. It makes me feel like Millbrae stands alone on this. And I know that that's not the case, but it makes you feel like that. And if I'm frustrated, I can't calm actually my population is pretty calm. I mean, if we had the Palo Altans here, Lord knows what our meetings would be like if the Palo Altans lived in Millbrae on that. So, you know, it just can be frustrating. Moving on to D, anemia and above, I'm still trying to understand what these mean. I'm thinking, and we mentioned this at the work plan meeting, that wouldn't it be nice if at the full roundtable for all of our advantages, we kind of went through what does it mean? And could we do a little mini trading at a roundtable? Or is that noise 201? Okay, then I would love that. Great.
I'll give you, I don't have a date, but I'll.
That would be great. Yeah, I mean,
Yes, the answer is
that
yes.
would be lovely. Okay. And then this was the last one. We're working on an east side environmental impact report, a specific plan for our east side. And this is the problem with Monitor 8. It's got 3 train systems. It's got 101. We've got El Camino Real, which is the widest, meaning more asphalt, meaning more sound, and busy and fast. And then we've got 280, you know, all within basically 1.25 miles on there. So we're going to be hosting a series of meetings for our east side to try to identify what we should be measuring when we do our EIR. And my question then, if the FAA only looks at health and safety of people in an airplane and not safety here or health, and the US EPA looks at health on the ground, which agency looks at everything? Is there any agency that looks at everything? Because I feel, given our particular transportation rich environment, that each one points the finger at the other saying, not our problem, their problem, but my community's in the middle. And to a degree, Burlingame, and to a degree, San Bruno. But more so Millbrae. Sorry, folks, Millbrae is it. So how does it work? How can each agency keep doing this?
Well, as far as if you're looking for a one-stop shop on who to point the finger at, there is.
I just want one person to look at the cumulative impacts and say, wow, the cumulative impacts are bad. High-speed rail go underground. You know, something like that.
Well, I mean, that's
Well,
what
EPA does that.
it does.
I was gonna say, yeah, I was gonna say, Gene, I think originally that's what the EPA.
That's the EPA. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering then, should we be bringing the EPA into our roundtable meetings? Should Region 9 have a seat at the table, or at least be asked? Which body? Congress would ask EPA to be more involved in noise roundtables?
It might be something for the FAA reauthorization to be considered.
Yeah,
The other
it's-
thing you might want to consider is, you didn't know that the comments that we did at the June meeting, the time period for submission has been extended by 60 days
Oh, wow.
Thank
to
God.
October
Well,
29th.
that means I have to do homework and write one for the city.
So I was going to recommend
September.
the type of thing you might want to do in your city. Because I hope you're doing the city submission.
I think you said October, Kathleen, it's actually September 29th. In Los
Sorry.
Angeles.
September.
Yes,
Oh, September
29th.
what?
29.
This is why.
September
I-
29th.
Vacation this year.
September 29th.
Okay.
If I said October, I misspoke. September 29th.
Okay, so cities, yeah, okay, that's good to know. That might be the next thing. Opening this up for public comment. We're a little bit late over. Please go ahead, sir. And this is for anything on agenda item 3.
Okay, again, Framingham, Pacifica residents, for Pacifica, commenting on the 3A. Definitely we got more noise during that one-way run, left, right closure. But you know, it's been, I think, open since end of May. And it seems like we're getting a lot of noise over Pacifica, daily steady, 2-8, left and right, you know, all the way throughout the night. So, and, you know, that kind of leads me to comment on 3C and the averages don't work. Because when you're sleeping or trying to sleep and the plane comes over, it's actually the peak noise, not the average, that wakes you up. So it's different from an average works like a freeway or ocean where you have a constant hum. And then your ears adjust to that and then you kind of block it out. But this is more like, you know, fireworks or a backfire, gunshot, you know, a cannon fire, you know, it's a sharp peak and then a sharp peak wakes you up. So, you know, take, you know, strong issue with the whole idea of averages. Because, you know, with the planes, it doesn't work. I mean, we're kept up at night and even during the day, I mean, work from home and, you know, you have that peak and it does even interrupt your workflow. You know, so that affects our schools, obviously, in the whole Daly City, you know, South City area. And they're pretty loud going over the ceremony, so there are a bunch of schools around there. So again, I think we really look carefully at seeing if the plane is taking off 2-8 and make the hard right over that industrial area. You know, limit the noise, get it away from residential schools and get them over the bay with bomb. And many airports, you know, have done this around the world. So I just don't see why.
Thank you. Thank you. And just on that, your comments, we've been trying to address. Congressman Spear had the 8 bills that were introduced, then COVID hit. So we're now trying to, yet one more thing, trying to bounce back from COVID and get people back into that frame of mind, but absolutely. And the problem is when it's the middle of the night and you get one of those, can't get back to sleep.
No, and they keep constantly waking up because
Yeah.
they're running, you know, a 10-15 minute interval. It'd be great if Mark could run that off.
If I could comment too. Yeah, I'm sorry, I will comment without necessarily addressing the issue because, well, I guess it is on the agenda, so I will address it. That's part of the purpose of the letter we just wrote, is that, you know, if you look at metrics should be designed to measure impact on people.
Right.
And averages don't measure impact on people. And it's an additional data point. But the impact on people is the spike, the actual noise, how long it lasts and when it occurs.
Yeah.
And that's what people want to know. And we're moving from the original noise metrics, in my opinion, were devised for one purpose, and now we're at a different stage. And we need to address it. And I think that's why health becomes a critical component in the discussion. Because it's not a noise, it's actually affects your mortality and your quality of life. And that has to be, that's the point we're trying to make in that letter.
And in the new work plan, it's going to have a greater emphasis or an inclusion of health impacts. Bert,
Anyway.
what do you experience? So gap departure, everybody in or near a gap departure experienced increased noise. Now runway 1 left and right are back and operating, but we're also in the summer peak travel period. So could they be experiencing simply greater number of flights? And on top of it, China fairly recently just reopened their airports so that international big heavy planes, more noise.
China's not totally open.
Okay, opening.
Opening, yes. Our flights have not totally returned. The issue I was going to mention was typically in the spring, summer, and also in the fall, we get heavy westerly winds. And so that dictates, again, use of
More
2/8.
gas per.
So I know we had a lot of people calling us immediately. Saying, it was supposed to be open today. And it's, well, technically runway 1, left and right are open. We're unfortunately going all west due to weather.
You know, tracking it on the stop jet lines, that's bad. You know, you can see the planes, and that guy in Palo Alto really does great software on that. And, you know, we noticed, okay, 737, A320s and, you know, 75 have gone down and because they're back on one-way run left and right. But, you know, we have more of the 777s. They're the noisiest ones, and then there's more 79s, you know, A350s, you know, and A330s, but less of those guys.
So I think, again, wind is another one like the inversion layer that dictates. All right, it is, there's no other public comment for Ms. Montez. I thank everyone today. We have the roundtable in just a couple of weeks for that, so work on the report out for that. I want to thank everybody here. Also Al, who is our legislative chair, who is keeping an eye and the letter. And thank you for the letter. It's been a busy day, so I haven't had a chance to read it. I can't wait. I did send it up, just so y'all know. I sent it up to the lobbyists in Sacramento, and I forgot what's her name out in DC and National League of Cities. Do you, I can go look her up. I just didn't have time to find her email and make sure that National League of Cities is aware of our comments based on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you, or I can, either way.
I'll take care of it, yes.
Okay, great.
Thanks for
And
taking
in which
this.
case, thank you, everyone. See you all in a couple of weeks. Be safe, have a lovely summer. And closing at 4:41, 4:42. And thank you.